instaMERSION.
And welcome everybody back to I Am Talk. We have the one and only Pastor Dale Saito.
Yes, there's only one.
There's only one Pastor Dale that I know, but this man has just been such a unique influence to my life, to our family, to our church. Now the current Pastor Emeritus of C4.
That's right.
Christ-Centered Community Church, and then also now a best-selling author, or
well, not quite yet, but working on it.
But Pastor Dale is the author of Choosing Your Path, and so Pastor Dale, just delighted that you came all the way from the land of Hawaii out into Central Oahu to join us for this conversation.
My pleasure to just see you again. Yeah, we haven't seen each other for several months now.
For a few months, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, time goes by so fast, right?
It does, but even though we're in the midst of all that's going on, it's still fun to just meet up and talk stories. So yeah, my pleasure.
I always love to just start off just with how we connected and our first moments of intersection. I actually had the privilege of being able to serve the Lord with you at C4 Christ-Centered Community Church. You being our senior, I don't know if I should say senior pastor, because every time I have a pastor come here and I say senior pastor, they get offended. And they say, well, I'm not quite kapuna yet. I'm the lead pastor, but senior pastor, I feel like, I don't know if that's...
Well, I actually like the name senior pastor because it's a lot quicker to say than senior citizen pastor.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's me. And with age sometimes comes wisdom, but it's good. I don't mind the title at all. In fact, I changed it. It used to be lead pastor with Fernando, and then when I stepped in, said, let's change things up a bit.
Yeah.
So just call me senior pastor. Yeah.
I was just very blessed to be part of the senior pastor Dale era at C4,
that's
and
right.
One thing that was just most life-changing for me was just our one-on-ones and our time that we had together. That was just very intentional. You had literally helped me walk through a lot of personal struggles, and as a young and up-and-coming leader, just having to get through certain barriers before God could kind of release me as a pastor. And one of those issues was my anger and just my irritations and frustrations. But I just remember you being one of the few pastors at that time willing to take me on and actually say, no, like I see something in you and believe in you despite what it is that you're struggling with.
Well, my philosophy when it came to church was that the people that come to work for the church are actually no different than the people that come to attend church. We're called as ministers to minister to all. And just because someone is paid doesn't mean they don't need ministering.
Absolutely.
To. So, I'm just trying to be obedient in my call when God asked me to come and lead at C4, it meant, holistically taking care of everyone.
Yeah.
And that included yourself. And, we go back many years before that, when I was a volunteer and you were a volunteer at the church. And but getting to work together was such a blessing because at that point in time, we had good reason to get to know each other.
Yeah.
At that point. And yeah, it was fun actually, because for me, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. So what I do is I generally share from that.
Yeah.
It starts from there, and if I can share how I overcame some of the struggles in my own life, then perhaps others can benefit from that too. So that's my heart, as a pastor, it's my heart to just help everyone. It doesn't matter who they are or what they've been through or where they stand in relationship to me. My heart is just to help everyone that really asks.
Yeah. And I can definitely see that through how you're living, and all the different young pastors and leaders that you're continually meeting up with, just outpouring your experience and your everything that you've gleaned into their lives, and even so much so that you've written a book,
Yes.
Choosing Your Path.
Yes.
And it's just even prior to coming to C4, you had all these years within the business world, and I just love just the parallels that you drew between your time at C4 and then experiences with other churches too, but just kind of seeing a lot of similarities, for good or for worse, for better or for worse, right?
Yes.
But if you can kind of talk a little bit about like what prompted you to write this book, and what's just the unique perspective that you want to share?
Oh, that's a
loaded question.
that's a loaded question, because there's a lot of there's a lot to answer. But just to share my heart behind why I wrote the book. As the pandemic was starting, and there was just a lot going on. One of the things that I failed to do for myself is to just take good care of myself. So I found myself right around Easter a couple of years ago, just on the edge of burnout, of depression. Took some time off to get somewhat restored, and in that process I started asking God, okay, what do I do next? Do I retire, or do I go back, or what have you? And God was very, very clear on His message to my wife.
The Holy Spirit is what I like to call it.
The Holy Spirit was telling Eileen, he's not done yet. He's not done yet. And we spent a month actually just working through that. What does that mean? What does that exactly mean?
Yes. He's
not done yet. And I started reflecting back on why I even accepted the role of senior pastor at C4. God had given me, had called me to raise up the young pastors.
Yeah.
He placed that on my heart. That fire was still in me, but God said, you don't necessarily have to go back and run a church in order to build up the young pastors. So this book is actually, the first step in my my retirement years of how I can continue to help young pastors. And this book was written from the perspective of someone who had done it, who had been the pastor, and what I try to do is to just lay out some of the landmines, if you will, that you will run into as you start a ministry, or you're running a ministry, or even if you're further along in the ministry, things to just be watchful of.
Yeah.
And I tried to bring in the perspective of my long career in the secular world, in the business world, and I saw a lot of what we did in the business world creeping into the church. On the face, that doesn't look too bad. It's like, oh, okay, well, it works for business. Why can't it work for the church? And I think that's the basic assumption that most pastors make when they start using tools and practices from the business world. What they fail to see, however, and that's what I wanted to point out in my book, is that the whole purpose of a company is so unlike and so upside down and so countercultural to what the Bible and the gospel and what Jesus was trying to teach us. We're all about love. Businesses are all about profits.
Yes.
And love has actually very little place in the business world, as you and I both know. Yes. It's not people first, it's profit first. Yeah. It's the other P. So what I also wanted to share with young pastors is, just beware. I'm not telling people to not adopt or adapt what can be gleaned from the business world. All I'm saying is just be careful, because with it comes values. Yeah. And the values don't necessarily follow the teachings of Jesus. So that's why I wrote the book.
Yeah, and I feel like, not to shift blame on anything, but it's just human nature, right? That when we start being part of any kind of organization where, it could be numbers, it could be attendance, it could be tithes and offering, but it's just so easy, even though we can claim that, hey, we stand for God, we're for God, we read the Bible, these are our pillars of our core belief system, just our tendencies can, for me, a huge one was just performance, right? Where I wanted to, through my projects or, find my relevance through my position. And then in that whole kind of race, just really forgetting, wait, no. Like my assignment here is not to build my ministry career or to even just to idolize the organization just because it's an organization, but just coming back to what the Bible is saying in terms of like, wait, what is it that the church is supposed to stand for? How are we supposed to live? How are we loving and serving our co-laborers, right?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope.
It is.
I mean, as a pastor, you sit there every Sunday and you look at the attendance, and if you're not careful, the size of your church becomes a testimony of your value.
Yeah.
And when people aren't there, you get depressed, and it's like, oh, people don't love me, or I'm not successful as a pastor because I'm not reaching enough people. And that's just Satan, just kind of whispering in your ear, you're no good, you're no good. But nowhere in the Bible do I see Paul in his many letters to the churches asking, oh, by the way, what was your attendance last weekend? Yeah. Or how many people have you baptized? Or did you do an altar call? How many people are visiting the church? He didn't ask any question like that. Yet we make that such a big deal. Yeah. In the church. And it's a slippery slope, because once you start attaching your value and your identity to the size of your church, all of a sudden it's not about the people. It's not about the church that represents people. It's the church organization. And all of a sudden you start to shift your strategies, your attention, your focus, everything that you do to filling the pews.
Right.
And I have to warn all of us that, our job doesn't end when people sit in the pew. Our job ends when we get them into heaven.
Yeah.
It's a matter of not only bringing them in the door, but also helping them to walk with the Lord, to really fellowship and get to know Jesus, and to transform, into the likeness of Jesus. Well, how do they do that? Well, I was telling some friends the other day, I said, a normal sermon, average sermon, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you maybe preach on 2, 3, 4 scriptures at a time. Okay, so you do 4 scriptures at a time. And you have 52 weekends a year to do it, right? So you're going to cover, out of this Bible that's huge, you're going to cover 200 verses? Really? Is that enough? Is that enough for people? No, I don't think so. So there has to be more.
Absolutely, yeah.
There has to be more to helping people to really, truly follow Jesus, to fall in love with Jesus, to pursue Jesus, to change their lives so that they're in sync with the teachings of the Bible. Yeah. And it takes more than just getting them in the pews and giving them 3 or 4 passages to think about.
Yeah. So. Pastor Del, in this whole just race of life, and us, as individuals, we're pursuing success, we're pursuing significance. In the marketplace, that's one thing, right? When it comes to profitability, maybe we're trying to climb that social ladder in terms of just ranking and position. In the church, there's those tendencies that kind of fall within that realm too. But given your, just this awakening that you're providing for us in this book through your unique perspective. How would you define what is, in your eyes, the successful church, and what is the successful leader? Like, what does that look like in the eyes of God, I guess, right?
Well, let me put it in kind of a longer term perspective for you. The megachurch model, the pursuit of these huge auditoriums filled with people, really blossomed in the 80s. It sort of started in the 70s, but really blossomed in the 80s and the 90s. And what's interesting is, the big churches got really big, but Christianity as a percentage of the population in America actually started shrinking at the same time, which led me to believe that this strategy of big church and just huge facilities and lots of programs and all of that wasn't really working. I guess that's I kind of came to that conclusion that we were busy building people who attended church, maybe checked the box in the church, but were they going deep? Were they actually walking out the door and thinking, oh, how can I take today's passages and make it a part of my life? No, I don't think we were doing a good enough job in that. And I have to share with you that, over the past months, since my retirement, I've been spending more and more time just ministering, pastoring smaller groups of 12, 14, 15 people. And I have to share with you, I was sitting with someone just the other day, and he said, Pastor Dale, since I started meeting with you, I started meeting with this one person on a weekly basis, just one-on-one. He said, before I started meeting with you, I had no desire whatsoever to read the Bible.
Wow.
And he said, today, I'm excited about that. And the more I read, the more I want to learn about Jesus. And it's hard to do something like that when you're standing, behind the pulpit and talking to several hundred people at a time. It's hard to make that connection.
Yeah.
But the 1 hour or so that I spend with this person, whether week or every other week, has made such a difference in his life. So for me, I think given the trending in Christianity in America today, I think we need to get more personal.
Yeah.
I think the pastors need to get off the pulpit and get into homes and get back into Starbucks or whatever and just meet people where they are. I've had other experiences in this past year where I've given little talks and I've gone around and I've asked everyone, just share with me one takeaway that you had today. And some people have said, quite honestly, I didn't get much of it, because, I was perhaps talking at a little higher level. So, I went back and said, hey, let's get together for coffee, because no one should be left behind.
Yeah.
We tend to do that in the big church, right? You see the ones that are really active and then the ones that kind of sneak in and sneak out and they never come back.
Easy for them just to fall through the cracks.
Out of sight, out of mind. And I believe as a pastor, no, we have to go after the ones, The 99s are fine. But let's pursue the ones because Jesus asked us to.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the intent of the mega church model, the initial goal, I feel like the purpose of wanting to get big was to have more outreach, right? I feel like the heart of it was good in the beginning.
The heart was good.
It was good, but just with humanity, right? And with our attentions and just being distracted with things that actually really didn't matter, right? Where just the value that we found through bigger attendance. Oh, we baptized more people. Others, more money coming in. Whatever it might be, we just, again, just going back to human nature, just forget the heart of, wait, why did we get into this faith in the first place, right?
When our church was back in the day, New Hope Ainahaino, and we were 120 strong or whatever it was. It wasn't a huge number, but everyone pretty much knew everyone. And everyone knew what everyone else's schedule was. So, if a family couldn't come one week, we knew ahead of time that, they had something going, or they were traveling or vacationing or what have you. But you lose that with the bigger numbers. You lose that personal touch, and you lose a certain amount of accountability too. It's like, if I don't show up, everyone's going to wonder, So, better, even on those days that you really don't feel like going to church.
People are going to know.
Or your favorite football team is on, I know. I mean, I stood at the door many years, and every football season, we see a lot of women coming in, but no husbands, right? So we know. But in a smaller setting, you have that personal relationship, number one, and number two, you have that accountability, that responsibility. If everyone does something at church, it's like, we don't have coffee today because Joe didn't come.
It's like, I guess nobody's getting caffeinated today.
Right. So it's like, okay, Joe, you got to come every week, right? We used to do that when the church was small. There's this one woman that was a greeter, and I remember the leader of the greeters used to give her the buckets. The tithing buckets to take home.
Wow.
And he said, you got to come next week because you got to bring the buckets.
You're accountable now.
But it worked. She came every week because she had to bring the buckets. I know he was messing with her a little bit, but it got her to come every week because she was, she had the buckets. She couldn't have church without the buckets. So, and talking about human nature, I mean, that is human nature. Sometimes we need our friends to kind of pull us along, right? It's like, come on, let's go, let's have church. And then you get into church and you start worshiping, and then you remember, this is a whole lot better than watching that football game, a whole lot better than sleeping in, right? Because, you're amongst friends, worshiping Jesus, and life cannot get any better than that.
Pastor Jill, I feel like just the timing of just your message in your book, and then just even with the pandemic, it's even forced our church to kind of reevaluate ourselves. It was a huge awakening for us, saying, hey, we need to come back to abiding in Jesus, right? And then even just seeing more of the importance. We were almost forced to kind of go into these little groups or clusters, and just with circles, and now with micro churches. And these are, again, nothing new, right? These were things that were done way back in the day. But it was this weird kind of epiphany moment, saying like, hey, we've discovered something new, but not really new at all.
It's not really new.
It's not really new. And I could just personally testify that even through us, almost a year now, having microchurch in the very place that we sit. I've been on staff with you, discipling people here and there, but because we have this new avenue of meeting weekly in a smaller group, probably 10 to 15 people max, I haven't discipled people like this probably, I don't want to say like in my whole career, but just my whole time walking with Jesus. The intentionality, these one-on-ones, being able to really know what's happening in these people's lives on a week-to-week basis. This is true discipleship happening. I mean, when Jesus talks about making disciples, he didn't just say, hey, bring someone to church and then they're good. He said, no, get into their lives, know what they're going through, walk with them, pray with them, do life with them, right?
That's right.
It's a totally different model.
But you grow people so much faster.
Oh my gosh. And we grow too, right? Through that process too, so much faster.
And isn't it gratifying?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, it's I enjoyed, of course, working at the church, and one of my favorite things was greeting people at the door and all of those things. But when I have people telling me that, wow, they've never learned so much, and I'm just sitting there responding to them.
Yeah.
They have all these questions in their minds that, they sat in a sermon and had the question but couldn't raise their hand, because it's not.
They didn't have that chance.
It's not set up, as a dialogue. It's set up as a lecture, and now that I've given them the opportunity to ask freely, it's taken their faith.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
To a whole nother level, and that's the role of the pastor. I mean, we're called as shepherds. Teaching is important, yes, but what people really need is someone to just kind of come alongside them and guide them and help them and get them out of trouble sometimes.
You do that for me a few times.
Right. Fend away the evil one when that needs to be done. But I mean, that's all part of the pastoral call.
Absolutely.
And we can do that when we get to know each and every one of the persons that God has placed under our care.
Yeah.
And it's so much more, not only easier, but gratifying at that level. I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pastor Dale, time is quickly eluding us, but I just want to give you at least a few minutes to, if you could address the camera in front. If there's just a message, if there's a word of inspiration, but just something you want to leave our audience with, I just want to give you just time to shine.
Oh, I don't know about shining.
Or for Jesus to shine through you.
Oh, well, that's an interesting prompting. There's so much that I want to share, but I just want to just encourage people to just keep on going. I mean, if you're a pastor, I want you to keep going, because no one ever promised us an easy career, if you will. Being a pastor is what, third or fourth junkiest job in America today, something like that. I mean, unfortunately, it's one of the toughest jobs. But we've been called to do that, and my only suggestion is, if you have doubts, just go back to the Bible. Jesus had it tough. Paul had it tough. Every one of the characters in the Bible had it tough, and it's our chance to make that sacrifice and to keep it going. The numbers don't look good. I know a lot of pastors are depressed, but let's not give up. I mean, this is a fight worth fighting. So let's do that. And if you're not a pastor, if you're just a lay leader or someone else in the ministry, I encourage you to do the same. There's so much that needs to be done in this world today, and it's not someone else's job. I mean, to a certain extent, it's our job.
Absolutely.
To be the catalyst, to be the one that sparks, to be the one that leads people. So, it's not just the pastor's job. It's everyone's job.
Yeah.
So my encouragement is to just stick it out, because this, like I said, is a fight that is well worth fighting for.
So awesome, Pastor Dale. That's all the time that we have for today on I Am Talk. But Pastor Dale, Choosing Your Path, available on Amazon. But Pastor Dale, not only an author, but I consider you a father, a mentor, my pastor, and just want to thank you for everything that you've poured into me, and just excited to see what's next
Thank you.
in your chapter ahead. So until next time, we'll see you guys.
Yeah.
instaMERSION.
Wow, that was just a sneak preview of what's to come next here on I Am Talk. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tap that bell icon to get the latest notifications on the upcoming episodes here on I Am Top. So who's ready to talk story? Let's go.